Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new, my name is Sandra and I am an interior designer here in Chicago, Illinois. I also have my own design firm, and today we are going to be talking about design fees. I feel like it's one of the things that a lot of designers struggle with, especially when you are starting out and you don't know how to go about pricing your design services. I am going to be sharing the pricing structure that has worked for me. Now I do want to note there's no one size fits all approach in this field because every single designer does it differently. Everyone prices at their own manner, their own preference. So what I'm going to share is not the best or right way. I know this has worked for me. And I think that this method has been pretty popular amongst designers. So let's get started with the video. So first, I want to talk about my pricing method. I charge an hourly fee, but I roll it into a flat fee. And when I first started my business, I strictly did hourly, and I noticed that this would cause like a strain on my clients. They would find it, or they would be hesitant to call me or to get me more involved in the project because they were scared of the design hours adding up or getting a huge design bill that they can't afford, which never really happened. But I decided to move on to a flat fee, and I found this to be much more effective and better for me because I was able to present to my clients the exact price of the design costs, and they were happy with it. I was happy with it. I also made sure that the fee that I was showing my clients was covering my time as well. I do want to backtrack and talk about the hourly rates. And based in the Chicagoland area, these are the common air quotes, common rates that you could find a designer charging. So for an entry-level designer, that could be anywhere from $50 to $100 an hour. For a mid-level, that is $125 to $200, and then for a high-end level designer, you can charge anywhere from $200 to $500 and plus. Now, don't feel compelled like you have to follow these rates exactly to the T. If you feel like you are far more worth and can bring much more value than $50 an hour, by all means, charge what your heart desires. I know I charged $50 when I first started because I had no idea what I was doing, and I had no idea of how to run a business and how to even go about it. So that was kind of like my comfortableness. Of course, as the years went on, my level of expertise has, risen. I do have much more experience and the type of clientele as well. Just wanted to give you an idea in case you had no clue on where to start for the hourly. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to how I calculate my fees, and I'm going to show you a budget spreadsheet breakdown on how I exactly do that. This is my really easy and simple spreadsheet breakdown that I've created using Google Excel. Very basic. Just ignore the top. This is my furniture breakdown. And if this looks familiar for you, I have showcased this in my interior design proposal video, but I've obviously fine-tuned it over the years. So let me get started on how I break down my hours. The way that I like to go about this is breaking it down based on the phase of my design process. So in the very beginning, I have what's called the onboarding phase, and I list everything that happens during the onboarding phase that requires me to do work for the project. At the very beginning, I have, to create the questionnaire, which usually takes me about an hour. I already have a template, but I usually fine-tune it or edit it based on the scope of work. And then after that is sending the welcome guide, which usually takes me about half an hour. I just, again, kind of edit it depending on the size of the project and the client. And then the last thing on the onboarding phase is having the kickoff meeting where I meet the client back at their house. We talk about the project in more detail and discuss the timeline. I also kind of have some follow-up questions based on the questionnaire that they sent, and I also take more in-depth measurements. So usually it takes me about an hour and a half, depending again on how many rooms I have to measure. So I add it all up. And here I have 3 hours, so that will take me 3 hours. Then I have a $200 rate as an example, and this will give me the cost. So let's say this phase takes me 6 hours. You can see that it automatically adjusts, but let's say I was charging 150. So it's really easy, simple formula. The next step is having the schematic design phase, which I do an imaging session for them, which takes me about 2 hours, and the mood board usually takes me about an hour and a half. And again, put the number here, 3 hours at, let's just say it was 150. There's a total. And the last step of my design phase is the design development. And this is a very hefty phase because this is where the magic happens. So usually or not usually, but I always create the SketchUp model. And then after that, it's the phase where I'm sourcing, getting quotes, plugging it into the SketchUp model, creating the SketchUp furniture. I also create the 3D renderings, which could take me 3 hours, and then putting all the design together, creating the design presentation. I put 8 hours because it usually does take me a full 8 hours to put it all together. And in my design, I also like to include 2 rounds of proposals or 2 rounds of revisions. So in here, I've estimated 12 hours. This varies case by case, depending on the size of the scope and the project. So these are just rough examples. This adds up all the design hours, which is 49. Is that right? Yes, 49. And then in here, I see the total design cost. So my clients, they actually don't see this anymore. I've decided to stop sharing this to clients just because I feel like I've gotten kind of some pushback on it. In the end, they only see the design fee, which this number plugs in over here. So if this was to change, this number automatically updates. And just a couple of notes on the design phase. I require a 50% deposit before I even get started on the design, and I require the rest before the design presentation. Why? One thing I've noticed is I used to do 50% before I get started, the rest due once the project is completed. I did not see much profit in that, so I decided to require all of the design fees to be paid within the design development phase. This helps the project be a little bit more profitable and eliminates the client from ghosting you, which I've had that happen, unfortunately. So in this case, you are covered on your end for the design hours and everything that you've done up to that point. Once it gets to the project management, I've stopped including this into my flat fee because it is difficult to estimate on how long it's going to take for me to manage the project because things have always changed, things always come up. So I decided to do this monthly or bill this hourly. So in here, I've listed all the steps in the project management phase: the procurement, which we order all the material, the construction documentation, the site visits, creating install packets, and then having an install day. So in here, it came out to 19 and a half hours at $150 an hour. Some designers like to charge a little bit more for project management, and some designers like to charge less. Ultimately, that is up to you. I usually charge a little bit less, or I keep it on the same rate as my design, just because project management takes about the same amount of time as design. So here we have the total amount of hours, and then this correlates back up here. Like I've mentioned, this is charged hourly and it is billed monthly. That is basically how I go about my pricing. I like to make sure that I have every little task that is part of my design process listed on here, and then nothing is missing. Otherwise, you're working for free. And like I mentioned, it's a very easy formula that I've created using Google Excel, nothing too fancy. So I hope this helps. So this spreadsheet works for me because I have tracked my time for past projects. It also helps me track my hours because I have an idea of how long things will take me. That way I can produce a realistic price that's going to cover my time and give the client insight on how long things are going to take me. Now, if you're completely new and you have no idea how long a design project is going to take, give yourself a test project and see how long it's going to take you to 3D model, to create a mood board, to pull together some inspiration images, to source, and make sure to track your time, and this will kind of give you idea on the hours, and that way you can multiply that by your hourly charge. The other thing I want to discuss is having a good, better, and best pricing structure. In all transparency, I recently started doing that this year. Last year I had a client suggest that to me, and at first I was hesitant. I was like, I don't really need it. I kind of like how I'm doing my proposals now. But I have found that when I would sit down with the client and show them the proposal, show them my design fees, they would either ghost me or get a little sticker shock. Because most of the time, even though I explain to them what I'm going to be doing, what I offer, a lot of times they don't quite understand all the work that we do behind scenes. And that's what my client had mentioned. He's like, I didn't realize that you take care of things when things go broken or you have to call a vendor. I was like, yes, I do all that. So I feel as though creating a pricing tiered helps clients, give them the choice of what they want to do. And I found this to be a little more helpful, even though I am about 2 months into this. I have found it to be a little more positive, and this could potentially, you know, convert leads to more clients. I have found that this kind of reduces sticker shock as well. And this also helps clients see why premium services cost more. If you want to see more of how I created this tiered structure, it's all on my website, so you can go check that out on how I kind of broke it down. Make sure to always detail the living crap out of your pricing structure if you decide to do that. Well, I hope that this video has helped you if you were struggling with pricing or how to go about charging your clients. I really hope you found this useful and helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you want to continue seeing more videos like this, interior design business, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, so you can stay updated on videos. I do want to note that my goal for this year has been to post one video, at least one video a month. And so far, I feel like I'm doing good. So I hope you guys are enjoying these monthly updates. But yeah, I will catch you guys on the next video.